Shut up and sit down.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Nersplaining Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Da Silva. With me as always is my co-host, Jose Romero.
What up, everybody? Little Shang-Chi time.
Oh yeah, man, this is deep spoiler-filled review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I finally saw it. Jose's already seen it. He's giving you the non-spoiler, slightly in-depth review, but I'm here to kind of put your a little nerd shake on everything, make it everything extra special, let you know exactly where it's all coming from. So that's where we're going for tonight.
This is extreme spoilerific warning.
Oh yeah, we're going post-credit scenes. We're going
Everything.
References. Yeah. All that.
So if you haven't seen it, you're more welcome to listen, but obviously buyer beware in this situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we're gonna go for a spoiler here. So, my thoughts on the film. I liked it. Really enjoyed that. It was very cool. Some issues here and there, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I'm dying to know what you thought about the film, man.
I really liked it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed the fight scenes. I was very apprehensive. I've told you I've had nightmares of Iron Fist playing the back of my head, and I was like, "Oh man, is this what it's going to happen? Is this?" And I was very pleasantly surprised. I almost wish that this would have come out before Iron Fist, so Iron Fist could have been like, "Okay, so we gotta at least that's the standard, guys. All right, can be responsible in our storytelling." But no, it wasn't. So, but at least Iron Fist came out, so Shang-Chi was like, "Okay, we got to do at least better than that," which they did in spades. It was amazing in that sense. But overall review, if I had to put a number on it before we go deep into it, because you gave your number already. You gave it about I believe in your review and on the non-spoiler review you gave on Nersplaining, I think you gave it about an 8.5 around there.
Yeah, I think I was around there. Yeah.
And I have to tell you, you're absolutely right. It is an 8.5. I will give you 8.5. Not bad.
No, it's a good score. It's a really good score.
Yeah. I was thinking about all the Marvel movies and where they kind of fall in certain ranges. And you got your 10s. For me, a 10 is like Infinity War and Endgame. I give those 10s. I give Winter Soldier a 10. I give the first Guardians a 10. I give the first Avengers, I give that a 10. I give Ragnarok 9.5, 10, depending on the day you see it, kind of stuff like that. So they have successful 10s, but not all of them are 10s. Some of them are 9.5, some of them are 9s. Did you get your 8.5s? Did you get your, I was thinking about it. There's really no bad Marvel movie. Even if you go Thor: The Dark World, you're really hitting like a 7.98 right
really?
there.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, look, watch everything in the DC universe. That's not the first two Nolans. That's not the first two Supermans. That's not the first Tim Burton. And I defy you to show any one of those movies. That's not the Suicide Squad. You take those out of contention. And Shazam. You take those out of contention. And you show me what other movie they have. First one, move over. You show me any of those movies. And you show me anything that's on better than Thor: The Dark World. It's got an 80% rival rate.
I'm not saying that's not a fair statement, but when you're comparing it to 4s and 5s or even lower for Batman v Superman and the original, the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad, then Thor doesn't seem as bad as that, but doesn't make it good because it's better than that. I mean.
Yeah, but
listen,
you're only good against your competition.
It's still not good.
So you put it against your competition. It's kind of hot garbage, but
I gotta look at it individually. I don't worry about where I don't compare it to anything else, right? Is it a good film? Is it not?
That's
as far as Thor: Dark
World me is to compare it to other people.
It's a 4.
That's how I get validation. So.
It's for me. It's like a 4 again. But listen. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this is like I said before, a second-tier Marvel movie, which is good. It's good.
I would better than Black Widow. Better than Thor: The Dark
easily,
World.
Of course, absolutely.
Better than the first two Ant-Mans. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was better than the first two Ant-Mans. I like the Ant-Man movies.
I think I mentioned that to you. I don't remember, but it's better than the Iron Man sequels.
It's better. It's definitely better than Iron Man 2.
Right.
I'll give you that.
Better than the Hulk. Like I said, it's there. It's not.
I feel like it's on par with the Hulk. I feel a little bit on par with the Hulk. To be honest,
This
with
is
you. I feel a little on par with the
well,
Hulk.
you're high in the Hulk. This I thought way better than the Hulk, personally, but I wasn't that high in the Hulk to begin with. To be fair, so but
Okay, I was very high
right,
because
okay,
I actually liked a lot of the little mini
okay, no, that's
references and
fine,
stuff like
fair
that. It
enough,
got me,
yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, it's not Ragnarok, it's not Guardians, because I told you this movie got very hyped and we talked about that. This was like getting
right.
like rave. Oh my god, it's
And here's
God,
the
let's
thing that
bring it down a little bit,
it made me feel like it could have been,
I like
but
on that level, you mean?
could have been at a
Oh,
level.
gotcha.
It could.
Okay.
I actually feel like it could have been a Ragnarok. It could have been a Winter Soldier. It could have been, but they had, in my factor, like three different things they were holding it back
For
that they
me,
had to do to make it
I
work.
would agree with. For me, those three things, and I'm kind of curious to see what they are. But let's start with the good first. It's not,
Sure,
then we'll talk about
absolutely.
why this movie was not to that. Because you're right. I thought it could have been close to like a Black. I think Black Panther maybe a little bit better, but close to that
Yeah,
level. And either way, but again, all that withstand, it's still a good film. Like very enjoyable. Again, way better than Black Widow, which we both thought were like on for the most part.
right,
But yeah, so let's get started. And first, I mean, let's start with the good, right? So
right.
off the bat, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Simu Liu, I think that's how you pronounce it.
I think it's pretty
That's
close.
correct,
Yeah,
right? Who obviously
yeah,
plays Shang-Chi. I thought he was really good,
mhm.
and of course with Aquafina. I thought
Yeah,
that she was
yeah.
great. I love her, man. She's great. She has a lot of range, man. She's kind of underrated. I think she's coming up, but she was
There
really
was only
good.
one joke that she had that I was a little bit like, but everything else was like really fun and spot on. She definitely did a lot of the heavy lifting of moving the story over by asking the important questions.
Yeah, she was
Like
she was playing the audience.
she was integral. Like I was looking, I was like, man, you really are a supporting character. You're supporting the story. Like, what do we do now? Ugh!
Yeah,
And she moved it over. Yeah, it
absolutely. But she did it well. I mean, she brought like
was great.
she was like 80% of the humor, probably, I guess, from the film.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
that's what she does best. So yeah, good. That
Yeah.
was really good. The look, the feel, I thought was great. I mean, and there were scenes where I was like, oh, it's very Crouching Tiger esque, hero
Yeah,
esque.
like
Someone.
when the Mandarin first meets Lao Wayne, I believe her name is.
Yeah,
Uh,
his wife, I guess, or
his
whatever.
wife,
Yeah,
his future wife that you
right,
don't know.
right.
It's a Marvel's version of Crouching Tiger,
Yeah,
hands down. Like
yeah,
there's no way around it.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, it looks great. Like there's no part of it that felt cheap. I was like, this is really like you could almost feel the flirtation between them while fighting, and that's how you know they're doing it right.
No, yeah, that came out really
Yeah,
well. Yeah, and
yeah,
it looked
really, really,
great.
really happy
Yeah,
about that.
it's
Yeah,
good direction on that sense. That
absolutely.
was a plus. And before we dive into the specifics of the film, another big plus was, like you mentioned, and we talked about it, was the fighting, was the action, right? That was really good. I mean, that was a part where you and I both talked about. We both into a lot of martial arts films, and this has to be done a certain way, and it was, man. The action was really cool, man. That bus scene was
The
awesome.
bus scene and the exterior of the
The
building
building,
scene when
right?
they're
Super cool.
well,
Yeah.
like honestly, those two were, in my opinion, the two best fight scenes of the whole movie. And there's a lot of
No,
fun
agreed.
fight
Yeah,
scenes,
absolutely agree. Yeah,
but those two
yeah,
were phenomenal.
yeah.
Like I was like, more of this,
Yeah,
please.
and
Eh,
the camera work that they did in there, if you notice, it's very fluid. It's in there, and it goes in and out, almost like one
it-
takes. It's not one take, but that's the way it made it feel.
right. It's crazy because they try to carry that over through the whole movie, but it worked best
Yeah.
on the bus scene and on the exterior of the
Yes,
building scene.
exactly.
Everything else, I felt you at certain times you got a little lost because they kind of put you too close into it, almost like watching a Transformers film. And they pulled,
Sure, that's
but when
fair.
they pulled back, I'm
That's
like,
fair.
"This is awesome!" And then they got, I was like, "No, stay here." And so,
Right.
yeah. So, but yeah, there's a lot of great fight scenes. I was surprised. You know what scene I end up enjoying more on an emotional level than a visual level, but it was a fight scene. Was the fight between Shang-Chi and essentially the Mandarin, Tony Lee, is his name? Yeah.
I think so.
I'm so bad with names.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I'll probably
But
miss it.
the
But
guy who plays the
the Mandarin,
Mandarin,
right, right.
he that final fight scene between them, I thought was a great fight scene, but more on an emotional level than I'm a sucker for those things where there's two guys fighting and one guy's clearly better than the other, so the other guy switches his style, and that becomes like the thing where he's like elevated out because he's accepting a part of him that he fighting wise he was never told to accept or allowed to accept. And I was like, okay, I'm digging this. And father son dynamics. Listen, I'm a Star Wars fan. If you once you get married to Luke and Vader, you can't not escape father son dynamics. It's just it's in your DNA. So I really enjoy that.
Did
Yeah.
you like him as a villain overall? Because Marvel has
You know
the
what?
biggest issues are having villains for the most part. Black Widow was a great example of
Yeah.
wasting villains. What do you think about him, the
I
Mandarin, or whatever?
a way more sympathetic and understanding villain. Way more. Like I
Okay.
did not think I was gonna feel like bad for the Mandarin, but they made me feel bad for him a little bit. Just a guy who, you know, was this warlord, fell in love, gave up his superpower, and it essentially was more or less trying to do the right thing for the most part. Because it gets a little iffy because the whole thing is like they say that his mom died because one of the gangs that he wiped off the table when he was a crime warlord
Right.
came back for vengeance. And they're like, "Where were you?" And I believe in the argument between him and Shang, uh, it said that you were out getting your rings. Like he was coming back, bringing back the rings to his thing. So in that sense, I'm like, were you bringing it back because you didn't trust where it was, or you're bringing it back because you sort of like fell back into your addiction, and because of that, your wife got murked. So it was a kind of thing where I was like, what was his real journey for going out? And was it because he just wanted to make sure no one else got it, or because he just needed to? So if he was trying to make sure no one else got it, it's noble, so it makes it sadder. But if he was getting it because he was like, part of him wanted it to be next to him, very Golem-esque, then you're like, okay, so yeah, it's your fault.
Right.
But they never really established what that motivation to bring those rings
I
back
hadn't
were,
quite thought about that, but you're right now that you bring it up.
So like that's me, like, so I felt bad for him, but I was a little bit on the fence. But like, at the end of the day, when someone's using the idea of your dead wife against you, yeah, man, you're kind of not really totally in charge of it all. Um, there was the one thing I would have wished more was because he'd been alive for thousands of years and that kind of stuff. He was very stoic a lot of times. The only time he wasn't stoic is when he was in love with his wife.
Right.
Everything else very stoic and serious. And so to me, I would have liked a little bit of like, because he's finally fighting his son in that big battle in, I would have liked more of that, all that repressed anger and pain he's had to come out in his face while fighting, almost like punishing his son just so he doesn't have to punish himself. So I would have liked to see him like be angrier as he did his martial arts against his son. And there's that moment where he takes all the rings and slams it into him, and Shang crashes into the ground. And then for a second, you think, "Oh shit, I think Shang-Chi died." And he is real cool about like, "Oh man, I think I just killed my son," and he's very pensive about it. And I would have liked more of like a, "Oh
Right.
fuck, I think I just killed
Like
my
more
son."
regret or something behind. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there
fair.
should
That's a
have
fair
been a
point.
moment like that, and then Shang-Chi comes out with the orbs, like the rings around. Like that would have been a little bit. To me, it was almost like I just needed a little bit more emotional commitment, because a lot of it was, whether it's cultural or whatever the case is, it was very matter of fact. Like I have to do this. And the only people that are really showing emotion was Shang, but Shang never showed emotion while fighting. I would have liked a little bit more. Think about The Matrix. And we talked about like great fight scenes, great modern kung fu movies, and that kind of sense of it all. When Neo is trying his best before he finally becomes the one, he's really putting his all into the fight. Like you're with him as he's trying to beat Agent Smith. And the only time he becomes stoic is when he becomes the one, because he now realizes he's above everything. And
Right.
that's how you notice that shift. I would have liked more of the Mandarin breaking down a little, seeing how far he's gone to get his wife back, even the cost of his own son. And I would have liked to see Shang-Chi start off angrier and then become calmer as he took control of the rings, to kind of show like a difference in
Sure.
dynamic of character. So little things like that.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah, and
said,
I think that we won't get to specific now. We'll hold off on that. But one of the issues was the third act of the film, right? Where I
right,
thought this
right.
movie could have been elevated to a whole new level, and I think that's where it kind of let us down. Not greatly, but to the point where, yeah, this is a second-tier Marvel movie as a result. But we'll get to that second, because that is part of the emotional part. You're right about that. That's something I think they kind of missed the boat on, or the end,
Right.
little more oomph to it. We were like, oh, we got
Yes.
invested,
Uh-huh.
so that was a little bit of a
Mm-hmm.
missed opportunity. But um, Well, since we're on the bad, the pacing was off in this film a little bit, right? 'Cause there was a
It
section in
was.
in the middle, and
I
because you
I know exactly where it is. I know.
yeah, like you're
Mhm.
right. The best two fights were towards the first, I don't know, third half of the whatever half of
Right.
or the film, the one outside the building and the bus. From there, it just like crawls to a halt for like,
The minute
wow. They go to
they get captured by his
right, and they go
father and
back.
they go back to his compound, there's a very big shift. Like that first like third of the movie, you're like everything's going. Here we
Right,
go. We're
it's fast
popping.
paced, it's going,
And then
it's great.
there's a big like almost like going from if you're driving shift, you're going from like 6 to 2. Like
Yeah,
boom.
yeah, and it's like
So
a good 30 minutes. I don't know, maybe more. It felt like a long time. There's a lot
because
of
they
exposition, which I
a
get.
lot of
Yeah, it
exposition.
was
And here's the thing I was talking about. Like they had to first of all, they have to give the exposition, obviously.
sure.
And then they have to rectify the whole Mandarin situation with Ben Kingsley. And as much as they made it work into the story, that did take a big
Yeah.
chunk of the processing time. Like, we're not cultural appropriating. It was a terrorist guy who's stupid. And so let's just be cool, guys. We're
Oh
all part of
man,
the same party now. And
did,
it
did you like him? I mean,
I got to tell you, I love Ben Kingsley and everything he does. There's a movie he did where he was an alcoholic hitman who had to go into recovery. Love that movie too. Like, he's great, and even in his bad stuff, he's great in it too. So he's to me every time he's on, I'm smirking, and just because he plays this doofus character so well, from him explaining how like the fact he survived because he just monologued Macbeth, and you're like, oh, this stupid guy's amusing. Keep him around. He might make you smile later. And that's the whole reason he's alive. I could totally see that. Absolutely. So,
yeah, that was what I had. I mean, he's funny in spots. He is. I thought there was just a little too much of him. Like if he would have just been like that one scene in a cameo, would have been a great nod to wink
if
to Iron Man 3. Okay, I get it. And it would have been cool, but
if the movie
man,
would have started, look, this is how I would have started the movie. And as much as I love Ben Kingsley, is he essential? No.
no,
So this is the way I would have done it. The movie would have started with you watching the Marvel one shot Hail to the King.
oh right, yeah, that's right, yeah.
So it would have
Yeah.
started with that, and then it would have jump cut to hearing the origin of the Mandarin, and then it goes back to Ben Kingsley in a jail cell, and they're explaining, and now you'll meet the man that you embarrass with your pistache version of what Americans think terror is.
Right.
And he would have come in and he would have begged for his life, and what you would have seen is like the I would have liked the Mandarin like in shadows. You would have seen his gauntlets glowing in the dark, and as you approach it, you see him, so he's not such a shadow monster. He's now a man, and he's like, please don't kill me, please don't use those rings on me. And right there, he's like, I'm not going to use my rings on you. And he just does a kung fu move, like a death touch, and kills him like that. And then he goes, that's what happens to all that cross the Mandarin. And that's when you start the movie. Like, that would have been dope.
Yeah,
Like, that
it
to
would have been
me,
better setup, and I think I would have made the pacing in that second act a lot better, right? Because
because
King is not, you're right, he's not an essential character, but we spent so much
he's
time
not.
with
They
him. It's
could have
like,
very easily done a whole, hey, I found these files, and
right,
the sister could have been like, I snuck out through these tunnels, so let's just grab these files and get this tunnel, and that's it. I found the creature, and you got the creature, like, for some reason, it could have spoken to Aquafina, and Aquafina could have done the whole thing where
yeah,
she's, or like, and the whole time she's like, you guys aren't hearing him? And
yeah,
like, that would have been really funny, and you didn't need Ben Kingsley. And so you could have condensed a
a
lot of
lot of it.
that
Absolutely,
into
exactly,
moving
yeah.
it forward.
Yeah.
As much as I love him, you didn't
You
need
didn't need
him.
it
So
right.
I would,
It just, again, if you had taken him out, it would have been fine. But yeah, that was my issue with him. It was just too much of him. He has some
yes.
funny lines. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, he kind of did it, but
Yeah.
it
And
didn't belong there. It's like he's almost in a different movie by himself, which I get.
he really is.
Yeah,
And it's a bit of a bummer
yeah,
because I think all that, I mean, because you could have had, like I said, if you would have done uh, Hail to the King, and then like the first 5 minutes is the story being told to him right before he dies, you could have had him on set for like what, 2 days,
easily,
and
yeah.
had that whole thing shot, and boom, done. And you could have saved yourself a lot of money because Ben Kingsley was there for a lot.
He was at first, I'm
So,
surprised. I'm like, God, why is he doing this movie? God.
yeah,
I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But that was one of my issues, again with the pacing, but which is a
right.
shame because man, like you said, those first man, I was watching the film, like, okay, I'm believing the hype, right? I
Right.
heard, and I was like, oh, then all of a sudden, okay, because I kept hearing as well, like, dude, the action's nonstop, and I'm like, whoa, okay.
Well, no, it clearly
It
stops. It's
stops.
clearly
Yeah, it
stops.
stopped. And it's not terrible, but I'm saying, but as far as pacing,
Or at least
it
there's
does
three
slow.
mules with a speed bump.
Right. It's like, okay, exposition, cue up the exposition, cue up the exposition, whatever. It needs to be
and
there. I
and
just, they
here's the
could have
thing
done it a
too.
different way in terms of presenting
I
it.
I know what they're
Yeah.
saying about following the mom. I would have liked it more if I've seen a couple of different people review this movie saying like, oh, the monster that the magical city is protecting is very almost uh Lovecraftian, whereas it's cyclically tempting you, this kind of stuff. And I would have liked it more if the rings were not presenting themselves as his dead wife, but presenting himself as like the regret of his wife dying, and instead of him accepting that blame, he's putting it on them. Like, if you would have accepted us,
Gotcha.
we could have lived here, and that would have made him seem more dangerous.
Yeah.
Because it's no
Right.
longer, you're not taking the blame off of him. Like, oh, it's his dead wife. What are you going to do? Like I was like, I was like, I can't really fault him because I get that, But at the same time, if you would have made that negative feeling like corrupt him even further, because he's already a warlord, he's not innocent at all, so he could be very easily corrupted where you just move your anger like 3 degrees to the left, So like I would have liked that, and that would have led more to that moment where he realizes, oh my god, I killed my son. Like that would have, like, that shocking moment would have
Right.
meant more,
Of
because
course.
and so like I said, it's more the emotional stakes weren't there. Was great, like, end of world stakes. I made sense of everything. I understand everyone's like urgency to do everything, but if you're going to make the story eventually at the end of the day a father and son battle, then you need to have the emotional stakes
Right. You
there.
need to hammer that home ultimately.
Exactly.
What about, I forgot to ask you about this. So let's go back to the scene where, he's finding his sister, right? He's looking for his sister and end up in that fighting pit or
That fight
whatever,
club,
the fight
basically.
club. Yeah,
Right,
basically
right.
what it is. So, I mean,
That,
we got
that's super MMA.
right, we got the abomination. What do you think about the whole
Right.
thing with that? I know we
I
had
thought it
talked
was
about
great.
that before, even the movie came out. I was like, oh, how they
Yeah.
gonna use them? And
A couple of things I noticed. In one of the rooms, you had a sumo fighter fighting a dude who's like straight up karate. That's straight up an homage to like OG MMA, when they didn't have
yeah,
it. You remember, MMA was
yeah,
originally every fighting style against each
yeah.
other. Find out who the best fighter is. It was like Street Fighter, So seeing that, I was like, oh, that's a cool little homage to what MMA is. And then there was a chick in a black suit fighting a dude who had
Oh
like
yeah.
orange fire. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that fire dude was one of Killian's extremist guys,
Oh,
because they looked very much like the extremist guys. And I think that girl that he was fighting was one of the Black Widow fighters.
oh, okay, interesting.
So I thought I caught that. I was trying to pay attention to what the other background fights were, and I couldn't really see anybody there. I'd heard rumors that they were going to be like vampires fighting like a scroll or something like
Wow,
that. We got
okay.
none of that, so I was like, okay. I was kind of see like who's going to shift, who's going to like bear fangs or something like that. And I got nothing. I would have liked to see little fights like that, especially like because we know that there's T'Chari and there's aliens at this point. Like, even reference the fact that people can get blipped out of existence in this movie, so they know it's post
Right, yeah.
Endgame. Like, I would have liked to seen a little bit more of like the different little aliens or things that we know about. So I would have liked a little bit more of that. But the fight between Abomination and Wong was dope. I was at first I was like, why is Wong getting his ass kicked by the Abomination? He should totally take him. And then he's like, you didn't hold your punches like you told me you were. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So he was putting a performance. And when Abomination got crazy, Wong got crazy. Like, oh, okay, we're gonna do it for real. We're gonna do it. Okay, here's magic. Go to bam. And then see that. Like, I've seen it so many times in comic books and cartoons, where you punch a portal, the fist comes out the other way. But it was great to see that
Yeah.
visually. I was like, that's
Yeah.
so much fun. I love that little trick. And then seeing them go back to wherever they were, because when Wong opened up that portal, it looked a sci-fi. I can't tell what it was,
Yeah, I
but
wasn't
it didn't look
sure. Yeah, I
like
wouldn't know.
it
Yeah,
didn't look Kamitachi at all.
yeah.
So
So I don't know. I
so
don't know where he's at or whatever. I mean, the friends obviously are
Or
or whatever they
maybe like a
are.
parole officer in a sense. I don't
Who
know.
knows? I mean, because we had talked about if if Ross was going to show up or something, or
Would have liked to
yeah,
seen that too,
right,
right?
or if he, I mean, he still may end up as part of the the whatever you call it, the Dark Avengers. No, is that
Oh, the Abomination. He does the Abomination is not in the Dark Avengers, but if they make an MCU version of Dark Avengers, he's clearly going to be the whole character. I did like the fact that they really zoomed up on his face and showed you it's Tim Roth. So there's no like, oh, this is another guy. No, that's clearly Tim
Yeah, I
Roth
mean the design is a
CG
little bit
face.
different. Like the face was done
Yeah,
differently. I was like,
but
yeah,
the structure of the face is clearly Tim
yeah,
Roth,
it's him. Yeah. So
which I like.
yeah,
I like that they don't like it's Tim Roth, guys.
I expect
This is
obviously
it.
I expect him to be back at some point.
Well, he's going to be in She-Hulk, the series. They already said that
Oh,
he's going
you're
to.
right. Yes, thank you. Yeah, you're right.
See,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that
Oh, so that's
that was one
interesting.
of the big things
Okay.
too, and then the fight between him and his sister, I thought was dope. And I honestly, my favorite part of it was just that hammer kick she does when she spins around and knocks him the fuck out.
Yeah.
I was like, that's great. That was
a cool scene.
supervision. Yeah. The way she hits him made me feel like you ever watch Umbach?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, whenever Umbach does that kick where he grabs the dude's face, it just slams him into the ground. I felt the same impact. Like she didn't like slam him to the ground, but that hit felt as committed as that Umbach hit face to the ground. I was like, God, oh, all right, that's years of anger right there.
No, that
fantastic.
Was, that was really cool, and I like her too as a sister. She wasn't a stand up, but she was fine. But she kicked that ass.
Yeah,
and she looked good doing it.
I like the potential that she showed in terms of like who she could be, both in the movie and in the post credit scene too. I thought that was a lot of fun too.
Well, we'll get to post credit scene later.
I'm just saying.
No, but yeah.
Putting
the third act, right? So let's get into the third act because this is where
Sure.
I thought, man, what a missed opportunity this was because the setup is great, right? We get to wherever they're at, and it's like kind of fantastical shit going on, little creatures and that, which is cool, right? With that beast or lion or whatever it was that was there. Almost like
half those monsters. I was like, dude, those are Pokemon. I've caught those before. I've got it. Yeah, it's fine.
But that was really cool. And then they set up the fight, right? And I'm thinking, oh shit, here comes the big battle, right? We've seen this kind of battle in many a film, right? And the setting up, lining up, and it begins that way. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm talking about, right? Because after it had been a low of action in the film, so here we go,
good amount,
a good amount. So like, oh, here we go, and what they gave us was cool, but it just as soon as I started introducing things with the dragons and the flying thing, I think it took away from that. I'd rather have seen a tremendous field battle and giving these characters moments, particularly the guy with the mask, right? They kept showing the guy with the mask. I don't know his name.
Right, Death Dealer.
Right, and okay,
he got taken out real fast.
He got taken real fast. I'm like, they could have used that. They could have taken out any other guy but him. Why him?
They got a Razor Fist. Right. Razor Fist would have made perfect sense to get taken out that fast.
Any other scrub there, just to make a point that okay, yeah, we get these creatures on.
Here's the thing that it
was weird, right? It was odd.
We were not going to get the big fight that we wanted because the enemies were using stun weapons, and that's how I knew we were not going to get a major fight. Like if they were coming in with like machine guns and like straight up swords coming into this, because you said burn the village to the ground. Why use stun weapons? That makes no sense. So enough. That's not how you burn. Listen,
you're right.
I'm no invader, but if I'm going to burn something to the ground, I'm not going to hit you with a Nerf bat. I'm like, then I'm going to burn it. Like, no, that's not how you do things.
Matches, so, I don't know. Just
you got to get in there. You got to make sure people don't stop you. You got to kill a little bit. So to me, if they would have come in with straight up weaponry, and if these people, remember they said in the movie, everyone in the village does fights in the martial arts style of the gods. Everyone there should be a little elevated. They don't have to be Thor.
No, not.
But they should be a little elevated. So even though there's more bad guys than good guys, each one of these can handle like 10 of these bad guys.
Yeah, there's always a lot of fodder they're gonna throw their way, which is fine.
I think it should have been like a more serious, just like how when the Asgardians fight, they're fighting with swords and they're killing things. It should have been a lot of that. It should have been them being able to overcome basic like a Humvee trying to run them over or a bunch of people hitting swords. Exactly, they're catching with their hands, they're breaking it, doing all like they can be very peaceful in their defense and fight back. The other guys have to fight violently to show you the difference.
Would have been a good battle. And the guy with the mask, I forgot his name. You just told me his name, but
Death Dealer.
But he could have fought like the sister in a cool battle between them.
That would have been
the battlefield,
such a cool
right?
Battle.
Man, they could have had those moments that these side characters usually get in these kind of films, like an Endgame. Those moments or everywhere, but. I was like, man, why they cutting away from that? I get and the dragons look great and it looked cool.
Looks
It
cool.
was just a little too much
I like
CGI,
it.
but whatever. But I felt like that was a different film. Like they could have saved that for a sequel, maybe perhaps, and just focus on the ground
I
battle,
mean,
and then
I
the father and
like
the
the
son, right?
idea.
They could have just
I
and focused on the father and son at the same time. Then it's like almost like
tell
Return of the
me
Jedi, right? You got the space battle indoor, and you have like the father and son going at it. It could have been something like that.
tell me how much cooler it would have been is if somehow Shang-Chi became, because he had like five of those rings, he became linked to the Great Protector, and the Mandarin became linked to the Dark Dragon. As they were fighting, the fights paralleled each other. Like that would have been awesome.
That's
Like if
yeah,
you
you're right,
you know,
absolutely.
you have that close-up fight or personal, you have the epic and the world fight above, and then you had the real like fight on the side, and then all three collide with each other. Would have been such a bigger, better way to like, oh my god, everything this is
Yeah, the
like
stakes would have been much
it,
higher.
it, it felt
Oh
almost like
man,
watching. You ever watch the History Channel? They talked about how the etiquette of war used to be, where the two like generals would talk and
right?
they come back and they leave the salvo and then they wait and then another wave would come in and they would wait and it was like a curtsy. They clear guys off the field. Like it almost felt like that.
Yeah, it sounds
And I
like
was
it sounds
like,
like an RPG. It's like I go, then you go.
yeah, and it should have felt chaotic, but in the chaos we start to see a structure.
Yeah,
And then that whole dynamic could have paralleled what's going on. Like the Mandarin has been a force of chaos and strength, like a control through power,
mm-hmm.
while the Great Dragon and Shang-Chi were basically, the sister said something. Michelle Yeoh's character said something that I wish would have been the big message that would have carried to the final battle. When she's like, "You're fighting like
Yes, I
you're
know.
fighting like your father, and you're not fighting like your mother." And I wish they would have had a line where she said something like, "Your father fights to win, to show power. Your mother fought to show who she truly was."
Right, I got you.
And you know
Yeah,
what I mean? And like, and if that would have been the philosophy of like, you don't fight to win because you need to be stronger. You fight because this is who you are, and that's how you express yourself, and this
yeah.
is how you find your place in the
Which makes
universe.
sense because he found himself as Shang Chi. This is who he is now, Shang Chi with
That's
the
what I'm
ring. I
saying.
agree 100%. I mean,
It
yeah,
would have been just a
yeah,
small little tweak, and it would have made everything
yeah.
go like,
That's what I'm
yes.
saying. Yeah, and
And so
they
so
just
then when
got
you
they got their own way. It's like they wanted to show
yeah
this big scale and this unnecessary. You don't have to go big
so
the third act. You don't. You can keep it still, small. Yeah, well, in this case, even with the battle, still keep it small and intimate. The fight scenes we saw in the beginning, they could have had in the end, particularly
yeah,
with the father. I mean, come on, it was just like, man, it was there for the taking. Like if they would have
it
nailed
really
that,
was.
this would have been top five.
Top five
If
easy.
they would have nailed that exactly the way to get the emotional stakes and the
and
battle,
and then and then
man.
that final fight when he's Shang-Chi's taking control of all 10 rings,
Hmm.
and they finally turn to the tide of battle, and he's coming down on the Dweller in Darkness,
Sure.
and he had sent his rings inside. I would have liked it where instead of like just waiting for that form to like wait that position to strike, if he would have been doing a whole form coming down, like almost like it's building up,
Mm-hmm.
and like as he's doing it, the rings are glowing brighter, and so you're seeing like he's doing this whole effort, and the monster, even though it's flailing, at any point if Shang gets caught in like his wing flaps or his arms or like that, he could be destroyed. But she's got to stay focused on that form and build that thing, and then that strike where instead of it just happening before, like it should have been like as he hits the skin, the big beam comes out, and, like it just needed to make it feel like there should have been a 10% of you that thought, oh, this might not work. There's a 90% that goes, he's still not going to do it.
Yeah.
But there should have been like a little 10% like, this might not work. He might get hurt, and all this is fucking garbage. So the fact that it didn't is where it's like, think about, I'm always a big hater for movies where they make the hero awesome and then they like weaken him so the bad guy has a chance. I hate that. I'm like, just put him in full strength fighting this guy. I want to see an even fight. The comic book nerd in me just wants that. I want 100% Captain America versus 100% Red Skull fight. Do it.
Right.
That's what I want. And this would have been awesome because Shang-Chi is so clearly out power leveled by the Dweller in Darkness, that this is his one shot. So he has to make it perfect. So he has to be at full percent to get this opportunity to pull this off. And as he was coming out, I was like, this is really cool. But I was like, there's no part of me that thought he wasn't going to pull it off. I totally knew
Oh,
he was going to
yeah,
pull it
yeah,
off.
exactly. Yeah, they didn't build that up, set it up
Right.
just right.
And
That's a minor thing,
think,
but yes, agreed. Yeah.
but if you had that tension, like him trying to do this form and making almost like, because the rings have been in control of the Mandarin for so long, using it for good takes more effort. Like, so it's got to be a whole thing. He's got to remember like his aunt and his mom and Aquafina and the whole thing. Like, and then you were talking about like, there's so many moments in the movie where they cut away to show a moment in their past. Like, and you were talking about, I would have loved it where it almost was like a montage of all the people who have always believed in him in spite of who he was.
Right. Yeah.
They've always believed in him. And then so when that impact hits, it's almost like it's almost like he's giving birth to a new version of himself from the impact. That would have made it amazing.
Yeah. It's just it's still cool. The third act is still cool. Don't get me wrong.
It's still
not
good.
bad.
It's still good. That's what I'm saying.
It's just very uneven, and it just could have been, knowing what we know. What again? I just think, I don't know why. And not all superhero movies do this, but most of them do. They try to go so big in the end. I don't think you have to do that. I really don't. And it's so grandiose. We saw it in Wonder Woman, for example, like that. Even
the minute that they made the rings, first of all, the rings in the comic books are totally different. They go on your fingers, and each one has a different power. And it turns out that they're alien tech, and each one is possessed by a soul, by an alien warrior. Okay. So the fact that the rings just did, like, they worked as a whole, like a component, like, when they're together, you can create force fields and energy weapons, and it enhances your abilities. I understand all that, but there should have been a moment in the movie where, with the fact that Shang is half his mom, that's why he's able to elevate the rings at a higher level, but he's still half his dad, so it's effort. And I think that's it. They should have had it more, especially that third act. Everything felt very, we have to only because there's no other choice. And instead of like, I have to, even though this is going against the natural nature of this weapon that I'm using. So this even takes more effort. And that's why the 10 rings are not something that should be trusted with anybody, because it has that power to corrupt. I'm just lucky enough to have enough of my mom in me to be able to control it, as opposed to my dad who wore it.
I guess,
exactly.
Makes sense.
So little things like that. And so that's what I'm saying. This movie is like, movie to me, seriously solid and really well done.
It's really good. It's fun.
8.5.
It's got good stuff all over the place. It's just.
But you see the shadow of like a 9.5 right there. It's haunting.
Yeah, it's like, man, and I hate it's just. I'd rather have a movie that's bad than have the missed opportunity. Because every time you watch a movie, if it's bad or whatever, nothing would have made it better. Would have been you got to change the whole film. Here, you know what could make it better, and they could have done it. It's like, man, they got to just relax. Trust in the story, right? You're building the story and the character, trusting that's going to work on its own. You don't have to make it so grandiose, and that's unnecessary. It really is, and
I almost
it's kind of a shame.
Like if the movie would have called itself, instead of Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, it would have called itself Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu. That the tone of that would have been much different and would have been a much better movie, which much lower stakes.
Yeah, and I think that's what we needed. I mean, the stakes were fun. Right. It just got almost too much, but ultimately, it doesn't make the movie bad at all. It's still a good fun. It's still a good third act, just not a great one. That's all.
You're absolutely right. In story of acts, the first act is fantastic. Yes. The third act is good. The second act is the weakest, but it still works.
It works,
but it could have been. Yeah. It's it's the kind of thing where, like, have you ever seen your friend go flirt with a girl, and at the beginning it looks like it works out, and then he stumbles off the end, and you're like, what happens? Like, I don't know, I just did the wrong thing, and it didn't work out. I felt like this movie was always just about to not do it, and he just caught it. So I'm like, oh, okay, we're here. But we're here. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's still fun.
Enjoyable. It's still a good film. It's still a very fun, good Marvel film. Absolutely. Like I said, it's
definitely top mid-tier Marvel movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally. I mean, I don't know about ranking. Maybe I knee-jerk reaction was just outside the top 10. I think that's a fair assessment. I think it's like 11.
Yeah,
I have to look at it, but just off the cuff, I would say around.
Like
there,
I said, I named like 8 or 9 right off the bat, and those are like top tier. Yeah, exactly. So the fact that you're right under is not a bad place.
I think that's a good place for it. Yeah, like, definitely upper half of MCU.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
upper half. Absolutely,
which is
absolutely.
a good thing. That's a really good thing. I know it
Yeah.
may sound bad, but
And now that they know what they've done, they can always move forward. But I will say it was a little bit weird because at the end of the movie, they didn't say Shang-Chi will return. They said the 10 rings will return, which I was like, are you not going to bring back Shang-Chi?
oh,
He's like, this is the first
of
movie where
course
they
it's
didn't
bringing
say
back.
they're going to bring back Shang-Chi. He
Well,
said, we'll bring back the 10 rings.
someone
Calm
else can have
down.
Aquafina. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, that was kind of whatever. I don't know. I don't make anything out of it. We know he's gonna come
All
back.
right.
Obviously, I mean,
Okay.
well, I'm assuming he's coming back. Why wouldn't he?
I mean, well, I guess we should get to the
Yeah,
post-credit
let's do it.
scenes now
Let's talk
because
about the first one, the one that was more interesting than the second one, I thought, and had a lot of cool stuff. So I'll ask you. Let's go through it because obviously there we see it's Wong brings over
right,
Aquafina and Shang-Chi, and then there's via I guess the hologram thing, whatever. There's Captain
right.
Marvel, and we get Bruce Banner,
Mark Ruffalo,
Mark Ruffalo.
Bruce
We don't
Banner.
get. That's the first thing that popped out of my head. I was like, oh wait a minute, and that didn't hit me. I was watching for a second. I'm like, wait, he's supposed to be Hulk or whatever.
Yeah,
That
he was
makes
supposed to be Smart
he's small
Hulk at
Hulk,
this
and I'm like,
point.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
still has the arm in his sling.
So it's like, and he looks way older too. Did you notice
He
that?
did.
Like
I'm
he
like,
looks like
how much,
an extra 10 years older than
maybe the
like
snap age.
maybe yeah, maybe the snap took a little bit out
I don't
of
know,
him.
but so what do you make of that? Because I'm thinking, okay, so I mean, I didn't know he could change back. I guess he can't, or he had the ability to switch.
Well, he wasn't supposed to, but now apparently because of the injury, he has to. I don't
Right.
know.
I was gonna ask you, but I
Um,
don't know. That's something that he can do. I don't. I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
it's was it when he hits Smart Hulk level, he's not supposed to switch back. I mean, he can at any point, but he usually stays at that form for quite some time.
That's what I thought.
Um, I did like the fact that Wong, as Wong was going through, he was explaining like this tech is nowhere in the known space
That was
universe
cool.
that we know
Yeah,
of.
that was
I
really
like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in this that references in our magical spell books. So it's already something out of magic and out of science, what that thing is. And it says there's a homing beacon. I will say maybe they're saying that they can go that these rings are that alien tech as is in the comic books, which I believe is the Kuwathans, is the alien species that had created these rings. Maybe that's the homing beacon. Is they're summoning the actual Kuwathan alien race that might double into what's going on with like the scrolls or something like that. Who knows? Or maybe if it's more on the mystical side, it's summoning a a beast from the dark universe. Because remember, I'm drawing a blank. Dormammu in the first Doctor Strange movie, he is the master of the dark universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so his power is purple. That's the reason why Agatha Harkness's power is purple. She uses dark magic. That's the reason why Caecilius has those dark black drops in his eyes along with all his followers. That's the reason why the Ancient One had that symbol that would appear on the head because that's dark magic as well. And even the Dweller in Darkness, when he was using his powers, his neck illuminated purple, mm-hmm. which is that dark power. So it's all sort of connected. So what if those beacons is a connection point from our universe to wherever it comes from, maybe the dark universe, which is why they said those are the only things that could have released the Dweller in Darkness from its cage, from the dragon scales. So what if maybe that's what brings Shumagorath into the multiverse to go into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness?
So did you think? So I was thinking. I thought this was more set up for down the road, and maybe it is. I'm not sure if this is going to be tied in. I don't know if the comics had anything, which I was curious to see what you thought about. The origin of the elements or whatever. But I don't know if it's
right.
multiverse or if it's something that's we're going to see.
It's summoning something. It
right.
can either be Shumagorath, maybe even it's that summoning for whatever reason is connected to maybe what bringing Galactus someday to the Marvel Universe. Like that's what makes the Silver Surfer sense. This planet is ready to have access. And it's gotten too powerful, and that's why Galactus has to come eat it. Maybe that's it. I don't know if it's going to connect to like the Eternals. I think that's too
soon for that. I think
too
right?
soon.
Okay.
Too soon. Yeah. And I don't know if it's going to connect to Spider-Man, even though there might be something because Wong is obviously involved in something because he's involved
right,
there.
And
then he's leaving at the beginning.
I'm thinking long term.
That was Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that was my thought.
I think Doctor Strange, and like I said, it's either going to be the Shumagorath for Doctor Strange, or it might be something bigger to do with the Skrulls or Galactus.
But nothing with Kang or anything that.
I don't know. Maybe Kang, but I mean, if it is, that's going to be a hard left turn. Like I would not see that coming at all. So
Yeah, I think so. It's a cool little setup because, like, even if, like I said, I was curious if that was something that in the comics explored that. I don't know, but if they haven't,
I know
so that's kind of
this is all
cool.
new
It's good,
because yeah, it
especially for
is.
you because now this is like, okay, let's see where they go, right? That's
Yeah, I
interesting.
literally
Yeah.
have no point of
Okay,
reference. I'm like,
nice.
okay,
Okay,
this
that's
is a lot
good.
of it.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
I like that. I like it a
Yeah, like I
lot.
said, it gave us one of the good scenes that gave us something to chew on down the
Yeah,
road. You know, like the whole thing was cool. And then I loved the callback, the Hotel California.
look, I'll
I
tell
mean,
you
come on,
how much I like this movie.
that was awesome.
I hate Hotel California. I hate that song
Oh,
so
really?
much.
Wow,
Hate
you hate?
that
Wow. Okay.
song with a
The
passion.
nerve. Okay.
And I still like this movie. In spite of that, they doubled down twice,
Down.
three times.
Yeah.
Three
Three
times they
three
made this
times, right?
reference.
Or, yeah, I think.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it was. She talks about it in the story. She
Right.
does it in the middle of a fight, and then they do it all singing karaoke
Yeah.
together three times. And I'm still like, I like the movie, and I hate that song.
Really? Wow.
So
Okay, you don't hear that very
yeah,
often. Okay, fair enough. But that was a cool callback. It was a good, funny scene, right?
it was.
It,
It
it
was
was. I
fun.
mean,
It was
it's a
fun.
good.
I
It's like
liked
a
it.
good callback. And it's like, oh, okay,
And
and it
listen,
worked.
anyone, if you lived in a major metropolitan city where you have a very significant Asian culture, you know that those little karaoke booths go on all night long,
Right.
and
Yeah. Of
everyone
course.
does it. But it's very much an Asian culture.
Sure.
So like I've seen, I was like, I actually know what that. That's so cool. So I enjoy that a lot to see that they're like. Yeah, this is an Asian movie, guys. Just get over it. Like we're gonna do some stuff that is clearly Asian, and it's not like, oh, this is like a stereotype. No, this is just culture. So
But you're
screw
right.
you.
That,
We're
yeah,
up on
it's
it.
not like it's not stereotypical. I mean, it could be stereotypical, but it's based on truth, and that's just part of the culture, right? Yeah. I
Exactly,
mean,
and it's very true.
listen,
So I
right?
like that.
Latinos, we eat rice and
And
beans. It's true. You know,
yeah, I mean,
there's no
but
denying it. It is what it
at
is.
the end of the day, who doesn't like karaoke at 2 o'clock in the morning if you're drunk? Like that's just the kind of
Exactly.
thing you do. So
And
yeah, it's all
who
part
doesn't
of it.
like singing to Hotel? Oh no, never mind.
Oh,
Uh,
me.
the only person that doesn't like Hotel California.
No, Hotel California.
Not the second one. The second
It's a very panderous song.
the second end credit scene, which I wasn't. I was whatever, but I wasn't a huge,
I actually
huge
like
big
that one
thing.
more.
But you
I
like that
liked
one
it more
more?
because
Wow.
because it
Okay.
showed that in the comic books she actually ends up she was second in command in for her father in the comics. Then eventually takes it over, and then Shang-Chi has to take it away from her, and he puts her in as one of his lieutenants because he's like, I know you only do this because this is what Dad trained you to do, but you don't have to do this. So I actually thought that I was like, oh, this is cool. Just like sending Shang-Chi to go kill an old man, which is the guy responsible
Yeah.
for killing his mom. That's actually like from the comics because in Shang-Chi #1, his first mission is to kill an old man who's an enemy of his father, but he's like, he's an old man. Why should I kill this guy?
Okay.
And it makes him realize that what his dad is, maybe his dad isn't what the guy he thought he was. This one is like, I killed him and I realized, oh man, I can't do this anymore. And so he had to run away from that life. So there's a lot of parallels, but that was like a cool reference to Shang-Chi #1. And that was a cool reference to how it happened in the comic books later on. So I because of the nerd comic book in me, who was like, oh, like this is continuity playoff. So I actually like that a little bit more. So that's why I like that a little bit more.
Maybe she's in the comic, but in the film, it doesn't seem like this is. She takes over his gang or whatever you call it. And she's
Right.
the new the Mandarin, whatever.
Right,
For lack of a better word.
she makes it feel almost like a real hardcore edge version of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Like
she's
guys
done
are
the
real,
shredder
guys.
stuff. I'm all over it. But it just doesn't seem like she's like on equal footing with like Shang-Chi. Like if if he has to come say, I mean, it's like an easy fight, right? He's got the ring. She doesn't. I mean,
no,
I don't know.
She's pretty good.
She's a badass.
She's a pretty good fighter.
She's a badass.
She's a
But
pretty
I'm
good
saying
fighter.
with him with the rings, it's no match. It's like
But that's the thing. I don't think he's going to wear the rings all the time.
Okay.
Because because like I said, I think it's that evil influence thing you're going to find out. Okay. They hinted to it there, but even though he's bringing the good out of it, I think they didn't show it in this movie, but they're going to eventually lean on to it as like, oh, it's like an effort because there's that is a negative thing right in the back of it. Sort of like how in Iron Man 2 they were showing that his arc reactor was slowly killing him in the first place. Right. I think it's one of those things where you're going to see that there's a corruption aspect to it. So you can use it, but it's not going to be your go-to. Because I don't think he should use it all the time either. Because he should be the master kung fu, not the wielder of the 10 rings. Like I like the fact that he's always been a fighter of ability rather than a powered fighter.
Well, I mean, you're right. Yeah, because if obviously the inevitable sequel at some point, but yeah, if he's fighting normal people with the rings, it's whatever, right? It's like.
Exactly.
One of the major issues that Captain Marvel, she's just too powerful. Okay, he's fighting, he's gonna win. Who we're kidding, right? So Yeah, maybe you're right.
Exactly.
Maybe that's fine. If he takes the rings off, then it's mano a mano. Okay, now it's more interesting, and
I'm
that'd be
I'm
cool
hoping
because
that, yeah,
I think you and I both like that kind of like more the smaller fight, one on one kind of deal. That's
absolutely.
world shot. Great, I'm all for it. So why not? But yeah, so that's what it is, man. That's Shang-Chi.
That's it,
A
man.
very good film. Not a great film, but very good one.
I saw it in
Mid tier.
theaters. I wore a mask.
You did, yeah.
Everyone was 6 feet apart. It
There
was
you go.
it was
Yeah,
a very
yeah,
enjoyable
absolutely,
experience.
yeah, yeah.
I was surprised how much fun I had going back to the theaters again. And if you can, if you can wear the mask and there's not a lot of like garbage people around you, I suggest you do it as well. Just because it's a good movie.
No,
It's a
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of be walking out going, that was
Yeah,
fun.
definitely watching the theater. I mean, if you can, I get it. Listen, and
Yeah,
these theatrical runs now are short. It's only 45 days. So listen, you have trepidations. I get it. In 45 days, you catch it on Disney Plus. Fine, fair enough, or
right.
whatever. But or VOD. But either way, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely. I think it's a good theater experience.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed it.
like
And
Black Widow would have been one we should have watched at home.
yes, well, I
Right?
did. I clearly watched it at
Or you
home, and
did,
I
right?
was
You did,
happy with my
right?
decision.
Exactly,
I
right?
did.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did. I'm a smart cookie and just didn't
Yeah,
do
I
it.
mean, I still got on the theater because I just like the theater experience. But I mean,
I know.
but
I
if
get
I'm
it.
recommending to somebody, no, do watch it at home. This one, like, do go to the theater.
This one, especially with the
Yeah,
dragons,
yeah.
it does look extra cool on a big
It
screen.
does,
I'm not
right?
gonna lie.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like well done dragons on a big
Sure.
screen. You can,
No, no,
and
yeah, of course, and it looks
it's really well
great. It's
done.
big
Yeah,
scope, so absolutely, yeah. And as I said,
yeah.
it's fun, and why not? I mean, and this, I mean, I'm kind of curious now with Eternals and how we're compared to this one because we just naturally compare these Marvel movies. We just do it. We just compare to Black Widow. It's just better than Black Widow.
Right.
Right? So, Eternals. What do you think? Eternals is better than this? Out of curiosity, prediction.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's bold if they can top this.
I think
You
it's
know,
well. I think
bold
on
is
scope it's already topping it because you're going into like
well,
history and the god,
sure. And
like space
in terms of
gods
the,
that
the,
even
the grand scale of the story, obviously, yeah.
yeah.
But
So
but doesn't mean it's gonna
eh,
be better. But yeah.
if they can make that emotional connection work, then it's going to be a better movie.
Right. I'm afraid that the movie's going to look great, and that's the best part of it. I have
Well,
a
you
fear
know
about
what?
that. The cinematography, the way it's shot.
The director,
She's right. She's great. Yeah.
Nomadland. She really that movie is 99% character. Like that's
Right. But this is like different kind of film.
great
Right.
views, right?
Yeah.
But I think she's going to bring
No,
a sensibility where
I
it's
hope so.
these
Yeah.
people have to make
I hope so.
sense,
But you have a lot of
and
character.
that's why
Yeah.
I'm like a little bit more like I think this is going to be a little bit better because you're really
Oh,
going to
okay.
feel the pathos of
I think
everybody. I'm hoping.
I think at best, and it's not a bad thing to say. I think it's me as good.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, okay, yeah, that's a good thing, right? If it's better than that, fantastic.
If it's as good as Shang-Chi,
That's good.
it's fine.
That's
And
perfect.
if it's better, then it's
Yeah,
great.
If it's not, just this is like almost like Titan season episode 4. Just be better than Black Widow.
I mean,
Black Widow's the Mendoza
look,
line, right? Just be better than Black Widow.
all of Shang-Chi third act and all of Black Widow is still better than all of Titans. So
No doubt about it. But yeah, Eternals has to be better than Black Widow. That's all I'm gonna say.
Has to.
If it doesn't, if it's not as good or as good as Black Widow, it'll be a huge disappointment.
I'm gonna start screaming, send me a sky base. I want a sky base.
So there it is, man. We're done here. Eric,
Shang-Chi.
take us home here.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Nersplaining. We really appreciate you guys checking out the show. As always, we're always going to bring you the best nerdy content that we can. As soon as we can, giving you all the in-depth exclusive looks about stuff that hasn't come out yet or all the cool comic book references you may not be aware of so you can brag about stuff that no one else does. And I mean, most people probably won't know, but now you will know more than most people. So there you go. That's great for you there. And as always, don't forget to check us out on the Latin News Network on YouTube. You can check out our audio podcast on ericdasilva.com. You can also buy my comedy album, Adorably Offensive. It's sold there. You can buy it on Amazon, on Apple, on Spotify, on Pandora, all the places you can buy it. I really appreciate it. Jose also does exclusive TV shows and reviews on the Latin News Network. So if you ever want to check out if you're wondering about a show that's come out going, I don't know if this is worth it, but chances are Jose's seen it and he will review it and he'll give you the lowdown of what to watch and not to watch. And as always, when you're ready for your nerdy fix or your nerdy news and nuggets or the biggest exclusive news about what's going on in the world today in the nerdy news, TV, video games, movies, then you check out Nersplaining over here. As always, I'm Eric Da Silva. This has been Jose Romero. We have been Nersplaining. And if you don't know, now you know. Peace.